Hi everyone, and welcome to a character analysis of Aegon Targaryen. Since the second season of House of the Dragon, we got to see a lot more into Aegon's psyche, his inner workings, motivations, and why he is the way he is. I love that he has more layers than we initially thought, and he is a pretty complex and tragic character. I plan to cover some other House of the Dragon characters as well in the future, so subscribe if you don't want to miss that. But for now, let's dive in. Remember to leave all your thoughts in the comments below. I want to start in the beginning, so let's go back to when Aegon II was born. His birth was a greatly anticipated and celebrated event. He was the first male child of King Viserys to survive past infancy. Though it wasn't openly discussed, it was quietly assumed by many that he would one day be named Viserys' heir, even though Viserys had long before decided that he wants Rhaenyra to succeed him. I'll try to restrain myself when it comes to hating on Viserys, but he is the worst. If you want your daughter to be queen after you, fine. But then, for the love of dragons, don't remarry and have more heirs. Male heirs. Surely, you must know that there will be lords who would want to see any male on the throne before they would bow down to a woman. Don't give them more options to reject your daughter and cause unrest in the kingdom. You and your cousin have been through this. You've experienced firsthand what happens. Why are you doing this? But, back to Aegon. As much of a joyous event as his birth was, the child grew up without much love or guidance from his family. No one ever prepared him to be king either, and that was intentional, despite the fact that certain people counted on crowning him one day. We know that Otto, his grandfather, planned to put Aegon on the throne.
When you bore the king a son, you ended 15 years of uncertainty and doubt. You mustn't ignore the certain truth that if Rhaenyra were to step over Aegon to ascend the throne, the realm would tear itself apart. He's the firstborn son of the king. To deny that he is heir to the throne is to assail the laws of gods and men.
But actually, Plan A was to marry Aegon to Rhaenyra. Viserys, however, never envisioned his son succeeding him or marrying Rhaenyra.
There is another choice beyond Casterly Rock. Prince Aegon.
The boy just turned 2, Otto. Yes, but it would cease the endless proposals for Rhaenyra's hand.
As Aegon was growing up, Viserys was unfortunately slowly getting consumed by his illness. So, I'm not gonna say that we forgive him for being a bad father to all his children, but he did kinda have a reason to be more and more absent. We're not sure what exactly the situation was during Aegon's childhood, though the adolescent Aegon certainly feels like his father doesn't love him or care for him. There are no warm and loving scenes between Viserys and Aegon in House of the Dragon TV show, apart from when Aegon was a baby. Far worse is the fact that neither of Aegon's parents do any actual parenting. They chastise him when he does something bad, but that's about it. As I was rewatching season 1, 90% of all Aegon's scenes were his parents raising him with slaps and shouts.
Ah! You dare put hands on me!
Aegon!
You are the challenge! You are the challenge, Aegon! Simply by living and breathing!
Aegon! Tell me the truth of it! Get up!
Why? What is it today?
You are no son of mine.
And Kristen Cole fueling Aegon's violence with his training methods. Aegon's mother, Alicent, we can perhaps attribute her neglect of her children to the fact that she was busy ruling in her dying husband's place at the time when Aegon, Aemond, and Helaena were growing up. This is not to justify her actions and neglect either, I'm just trying to contextualize the situation. Alicent was also very young when she became a mother, her own mother died, Otto as a father was not very warm and loving, so all of these things combined, we can kind of understand why Alicent is not a very good mother. Again, not to justify her or Viserys' child-raising methods, but rather to say that the Targaryen Hightower children were doomed from the start. All of them are messed up. Aemond is cold and emotionally reserved, Aegon has low self-esteem, and Helaena is in her own world 24/7. Viserys and Alicent were pretty shitty parents to these kids. If we talk about Otto for a second though, he was the one in charge of the kingdom during the time of Aegon's childhood and adolescence. Wanting to arrange a marriage between Rhaenyra and Aegon, as repulsive as it sounds, would probably have been the best solution, politically speaking, in this fictional world. When the proposal failed, Otto decided to change his plan and put Aegon himself on the throne. But he wanted Aegon to be a weak king so that he could control him. I guess that's why he and Alicent let him be a mess. But a mess is not easy to control. A mess is erratic and unpredictable, and that's exactly what Aegon turned out to be. Aegon was born with the crown on his head, pretty much, yet he never had the ambition or the appetite for it. He says so several times.
Rhaenyra will ascend the throne, and Jacaerys Targaryen will be her heir.
So?
I have no wish to rule, no taste for duty. I'm not suited. Let me go. I will find a ship and sail away, never to be found.
And the man literally wanted to run away when he learned that he would become king. They had to drag him back, kicking and screaming, and force him to sit on that throne. He didn't want to. He knew he was not fit to rule. He knew it was not intended for him to sit there, and I think that hurt him the most. The fact that it wasn't his father's wish.
In an hour, you will be king.
And my father never wanted this.
That's not true. He changed his mind.
He could have, but he never did. Because he didn't like me.
Until everyone around Aegon convinced him that this was Viserys' final wish, and it was meant to be this way, which boosted his ego in the most unhealthy manner. More on this later. The other power-hungry characters only wanted Aegon to be a puppet, to sit on the throne while they ruled from the shadows. No one in his life was ever counting on him. They didn't want him to even try. They didn't prepare him for it. They just needed him to be the poster boy king.
Do simply what is needed of you. Nothing.
This exchange between Alicent and Aegon reminded me of the scene when they're riding to his coronation in season 1. They're talking about Viserys' wishes and the fact that Aegon will become king, but for Aegon that's not really what it's about. He's seeking emotional support first and foremost. Validation, affirmation, that's what he's looking for in both of these scenes, yet he gets the exact opposite. A slap in the face. Symbolic this time. In the scene in season 1, he complains that his father never loved him. Alicent doesn't deny this. She just says that despite the fact that Viserys didn't love him, he wanted him to be king. But that's not what Aegon wants to hear. He wants to hear, no, he did love you. He believed in you. That's why he made you king. That's why Aegon then asks Alicent if she loves him. At least she. But all he gets is rejection.
Daughter,
Do you love me?
you imbecile.
And during their conversation in season 2, Aegon is frustrated by his powerlessness and inability to make himself heard, to be respected by his council. He's confessing his feelings and asking for his mother's emotional support, but he gets mocked. Yes, his reasoning sucks. I'm the king, therefore they should listen to me. But guess what? Her explanation and reasoning and logic also sucks.
It was my hope that, once enthroned, you would honour the burden of your new duties, be silent, and strive to learn from the more studied minds around you.
You just expected to put a crown on his head and he would suddenly become responsible, dutiful, and wise? Come on. Where were you, Alicent, when he needed guidance? Where were you when his son was killed? Where were you when he needed to be steered away from unhealthy coping mechanisms? Oh right, you were raising him with slaps and shouts. Not one civil conversation did his parents have with Aegon on screen in season 1. I'm not saying Aegon is not responsible for his actions, he absolutely is, but my goodness, he didn't stand a chance with an upbringing like this. Aegon may lack ambition when it comes to ruling, but he does greatly want to prove his worth. The issue is that people around him have convinced him that wearing the crown gives him worth, power, authority. Now mix this with low self-esteem and feeling unloved, and you get something pretty bad. Very often, Aegon tries to assert himself, give orders, be in charge, but he's doing so with no knowledge, experience, or wisdom, so the result is not good. There are moments when he demonstrates that he genuinely wants to do well for his kingdom and his people, but he lacks certain qualities and knowledge that should have been encouraged in him from an early age.
Your Grace?
You need your goats for the winter, don't you?
Sheep, Your Grace.
Sheep, even better. I shall make your flock of sheep whole.
I need to be informed of these things. If I am to make informed rulings, I will not be made to look a fool in front of my allies and enemies.
Harrenhal must wait.
He uses his power as king to compensate for his insecurities and the confidence he lacked growing up. Speaking of Aegon's decisions as king, the Otto-Aegon dynamic is also pretty interesting, especially the scene where Aegon fires his grandfather as the Hand.
After all I've done for you, thoughtless, feckless, self-indulgent.
At least I did something. I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood, not ink. We must act.
My father is dead.
He is. And we are the poorer for it. He was right about you.
He made me king.
Aegon's worst fear is being seen as a weak, indecisive king, most likely because he feels weak and underestimated in his family. And bringing up Viserys, comparing Aegon to his father, certainly gets on his nerves. This response, "He made me king," I think Aegon still doesn't believe it, not really. But he has nothing better to say. He can't say, "My father liked me, loved me, believed in me." No, he made me king, so at least I get to make decisions now. And make decisions I will because I want to assert myself, and in doing so maybe I'll feel at least an ounce of self-worth. In this scene, I think Aegon finally and definitively realizes that he is just a prop, that nothing was ever expected of him, and this naturally brings to light his biggest insecurities. It fuels him with grief and anger and pushes him to go into battle to try and prove his worth this way. It's really tragic to think that his dragon, Sunfire, is the only one that's ever shown poor Aegon genuine love and affection. But I guess we'll see what the show has in store for him next. These are some of my thoughts on Aegon II and House of the Dragon. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll be seeing you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.